Okay, so you go through that. You get kicked out of public school.
Yep.
You get put in an alternative school.
Yeah.
You left that.
Sure did.
Get your GED.
Got my good old GED. I don't even know where that thing is at right now, but I got that. I'm a proud GED holder because there's a lot of shame. People had a lot of shame back in the day. I don't know now, but in getting a GED, it was like, oh my God, you're not smart. You're so stupid. You have to get a GED. Like, I just didn't like being around people because I didn't like the whole who's more popular, who's the most popping. Like, I wanted to get the fuck out and go get money.
Okay, so now you're out of school and you try to actually sell dope.
I did.
That didn't work out.
I was a one-day dope dealer.
I can relate. I tried selling cocaine for one day also.
Oh, I skipped cocaine. I went straight to rock cocaine.
Okay.
And let me tell you something. I will go down in history as the worst dope dealer to ever live. I promise you.
Okay, and your brother Rodney, he saw that and said, listen, you're going to college.
Rodney gave me the option. And what I love about him is that, I believe he loved me for sure. And thought highly of me and my capabilities. But he knew I wanted to be just like him. I wanted the lifestyle. I wanted my hair to be like his. I didn't want all the girls he had because that's when I started venturing off into guys. But I wanted that lifestyle, and he said to me, you're going to get it one of two ways. You're either going to get out in these streets and sell dope or you're going to fucking go to school. And I was like, fuck, I'm like every other kid. I don't want to fucking go to school. Let me give me the dope. So he gave me an 8-ball and he gave me a 32 and he put me in the worst area of the city. I think at the time, I want to say I was wearing Tommy Hilfiger because I was still a bougie shoplifter. What do they call not a scammer, but I scammed later. What was I? I was a booster. I was a booster. I was going to San Francisco Macy's. I was boosting that Tommy Hilfiger. So I had my little Tommy on and I was in the worst part of town selling rock cocaine. Now, here's the crazy part. I took a piece of, this is fucking embarrassing. I took a piece of paper bag and a pencil, and I was actually keeping track of the, I was keeping track of the money that the crackheads owed me. I was working on a system.
Oh, you giving the money a crack?
No, I was like, all right, I'm gonna give you this, but you gotta pay me back. They're like, yeah, I'm taking names. I literally put a pencil and a paper bag. So at the time I was also asthmatic. So I get chased by the police. Me and my friend Spencer, we run like 3 or 4 big long blocks and we end up jumping in a dumpster. Now I'm in the dumpster in my Tommy Hilfiger, asthmatic, running from the police. And that's when I realized I'm not made out for this shit. Because I have the gun on me. I got the dope on me. I'm in a garbage can. I'm laying next to my friend Spencer, who, by the way, at the time, he had a Jerry curl. Nothing wrong with Jerry curls, but that in the stench of dirty food and dirt and trash, it just was a lot going on in this dumpster. So I get out the dumpster and I call my brother Rodney and I'm like, hey, I need you to come pick me up. And I'll never forget, he comes down, he picks me up, we get in the car, and he's like, what's up? I'm like, well, I spent the whole night under the bridge. He's like, where's the dope? I hand him the dope or what's left. And he's like, well, where's the money? And I hand him a wad of money. And he's looking at it like, this don't add up. And I'm like, well, and then I pull out the brown paper bag of the IOUs. And he was like, you're fucking going to school. Like, this is not for you, And we laughed about it. He was not happy, but he laughed. We laughed about it, and he literally took me to college and got me enrolled.
Okay, and around that time, I guess you had a girlfriend originally.
Yes.
But you started to get attracted to guys.
Yes.
And your first real sexual experience with a guy, you were how old?
18.
Okay.
18. We finessed our way onto the Ricky Lake show. That's how it all went down. But the backstory is I was going through a bad relationship where I wasn't feeling loved. I went back to what I was experiencing as a kid, not really getting the love that I wanted, not getting the affection that I needed, not getting it reciprocated. And then I started hanging out with a homie of mine, and we just clicked and we just bonded, and we started experiencing like writing together and hanging out together and writing songs and rapping. And then, oh yeah, I was a rapper. That was after the bad drug dealer experience. I became a rapper and a poet. Don't know Tupac there, but then we started hanging out and we started shoplifting together and being a boosters and, dressing and throwing parties. And so we just built this relationship that just got really close. Then I had kind of heard that he fucked around with guys. And I started to develop curiosity. So I set up this whole masterful plan to go on the Ricky Lake show so I could get him away from Stockton, because we were not going to do anything in the city limits, because being gay in my city at the time was very taboo. It was like, you're not going to do that. And we ended up going to New York and doing the show. And like when we got there, it just instantaneously was like the attraction was there. We started drinking and we had the experience. And then when we came back, I think it became more of an emotional investment for me, because I actually liked what I was experiencing with him. And he at the time had a baby mom that he was living with, and I was living with my mom across the street. So it was a very interesting time.
Well, at that point, did you realize that you were really into men, or were you kind of still bisexual around that time?
I don't think that I was putting a label on it, because I was so engulfed in the experience that I wasn't really struggling with, am I gay? Am I straight? Am I this? Am I that? I wasn't struggling with. What I was struggling with was making sure to protect it from it getting out, because I didn't want to lose it. And I felt like if my girl found out and his girl found out, then there's no way it can exist anymore. And so it was more about protecting the privacy of it to maintain it. And so, yeah, I mean, I didn't struggle with it. I still was with my girl and he was still with his girl. But then there came a point where I wanted to leave my girl and just be with him, but he didn't want to leave. You know, he was like, there's no way possible. My mother's homophobic. There's no way. Our community is extremely homophobic. We had no plan. There was no, we're going to go get married. Like, we didn't even know that men couldn't even get married back then. We didn't think about that. And so, yeah, we held it as private as we could for as long as we could.
Well, then 1997 rolls around. You're having a going away party. Your brother Rodney was there.
Correct.
What happens next?
So not just Rodney was there. Rodney was there. My brother Chris was there. My brother Christopher. I have a brother named Christopher. That's what happens when you have a dad with different baby moms. So Chris and Christopher was there. Rodney was there. Link was in prison at the time. And my cousins were there. And so we had a going away party because had met Queen Latifah at 15 when I got out, and I was inspired to get to LA and figure this thing out. And this was my attempt to really just get out of Stockton. You know, escapism for us was TV and music, but now I was really going to escape the streets that I had almost died in to go and try to find this better life at 19. So I had a going away party and Rodney came. You know, one thing I would say about Rodney was he was somebody that I could depend on for anything and everything, any conversation. Even with my mom, I could call him and say, my mom said I was a nigger and that I ain't gonna be shit like dad and this, and he would say, I don't give a fuck what she said, that's your mom. You know, and I would be frustrated with him because that's not what I felt. I didn't understand that. So he was always reinforcing person on what's proper and be a good person. And so it was important that he be there because I was leaving, but I was going to always come back. But anyway, so he's standing by the bar and we're talking and I'm like, hey, so, we're kind of shooting the shit. And Rodney didn't really have good eyesight, and he was 6'5" and 235 pounds. So he's a big guy, and he had this presence in the community where, you know, he would pull his gun out on you first and shoot you. People knew that. And he had been to prison several times, and, you know, he was a big guy in the dope game out there. So he couldn't really see. So it always looked like he was mean mugging people. I'm like, yo, why are you looking at everybody crazy at my going away party? He's like, bro, you know, I'm blind. So we're kind of laughing. And then we get a drink. I get a drink and he gets a Sprite and he's acting like he's drinking, but it's a Shirley Temple. So it's this big ass gangbanger with a Shirley Temple. We're laughing and I'm just talking shit to him. And I said to him, you know, I'm about to get out of here and I love you. And I hugged him and I had never said I love you to him, which I never thought about at the time, but it's just, that's what came out. And then I just turned around to leave and I walked probably 10 feet and then I could see my friend Phila from the South Side trying to pull his girl out the club. And this girl, her name was Samantha, and Samantha lived in apartment 63 in my building. I lived in apartment 70. I could literally walk out my front door and see her front door. This is how small our city is. And as he's pulling her out, I'm kind of looking, and then Rodney's standing off to the back and he's looking at it, unfazed, of course. And then Philip picks her up. And when he picks her up, I could see the gun come up. She had a gun in her hand. And then she just pulled the trigger. And it was like the loudest sound because it was a room a little bit bigger than this. So the sound was really, really loud. It was a 45. So when she shot the gun, Of course, it threw her back on Philip, and then the people that were in front of me kind of fell back. And so we're all on the ground. People are spilling their drinks on me, and it's just chaotic. And then people start to get up, and then we all run out. And so when we run outside, I'm standing in the middle of the bowling alley waiting on him to come out because it's really one way out. The other door has a chain on it, so you can't go out. You can only go out this way. So I'm waiting, and he doesn't come out. So I'm thinking maybe he's just in there chilling. I don't know. I don't really hear anything. Just people are running. And then I hear more gunshots outside because she's shooting at another woman outside. And now people are running back inside. Now the people running inside got guns. The people outside are shooting. So I decide I'm getting the fuck out of here. I run down the side of the bowling alley lane, kick open the side door, go in the back, open the exit, the emergency exit, climb over a fence, and there's barbed wire on the top. So I'm like trying to figure out how to get over this barbed wire fence. So I get up to the top of the barbed wire fence, and these ladies are pulling up. I don't even remember who these girls are, but they're like, "Hey, aren't you Rodney's little brother?" And I'm like, yeah. So I'm climbing down the fence, and she's like, "Oh, I just think he got hit." And I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "It doesn't look good. I think he got shot." So I instantly just run back inside. And when I come back inside, and I'm starting to go back in the bar inside the bowling alley, I could see there's just people screaming. It's chaos. And our friend Tonto is on the ground giving CPR to who I now know is my brother. And then when I get up on him, he's laying there in a pool of blood. And my two brothers are standing there. And it was the first time, I think, when you see movies where people have out-of-body experiences, where you feel like your soul has just left your body and you're kind of looking at everything. I had that experience. And one of my brothers, Chris, who had the same mother and father as him, was very numb, like he didn't believe it was happening. He just was standing there in disbelief. My other brother, Christopher, he was younger than me. I was 19. He was probably 17 or 16. He was just crying and, going through it. And I was numb. I was in disbelief because there was no way the figure that I had built up in my head, that the community had built up, had just got killed by a woman on some random fluke shit, right? So Calvin was there with me, who was my boyfriend at the time. And then we went to the hospital, and that's when things started really kicking in that this was real. And although I had seen the guy when I was 7 get his throat cut, and I'd been shot at 15 and been all through all that, that was the moment I think that, and I had other friends dying too, but that was like the first real, I think, death experience that I had that was real.
Right. And like you said earlier, you came home,
Yeah.
you told your mother what happened, and she said they should have killed your black ass.
Yeah.